Good morning, everyone. I'm Saltanat Kazi, and I'm aligned with the Environment Education and Awareness area in TERI, and I'm the moderator for the thematic track Breaking Barriers, Youth and Agriculture, which is a joint initiative of TERI and Food and Land Use Coalition, which is conducted as part of WSDS Summit 2022. The overarching theme for this is to build a resilient planet, and towards this endeavor, this thematic track is being organized to identify avenues through which youth engagement can be effectively channelized to strengthen the agricultural sector in India. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce the Director General of TERI, Dr. Vibha Dhawan, who's been associated with TERI since 1985, and she is an agricultural scientist and biotechnologist, and is actively involved in research as well as policy development, both at national and international level. She is the winner of the Women Leadership Agricultural Award 2016 by Indian Council of Food and Agriculture. I invite Dr. Dhawan to deliver the welcome address.
Thank you, Saltanat, for introducing me. And I'm so glad to be part of this particular session because it's very close to my heart. Having worked in this field for over 4 decades, one has definitely seen how agriculture, what it was, how it is going, and what is the future of agriculture as a whole. Now, if we look at this thematic track on breaking barriers, youth and agriculture, which is hosted under WSDS 2022. With a dual focus on research and outreach, TERI is well positioned to lead this interesting and thought-provoking initiative. I welcome Dr. Jayhari, India Country Coordinator, Food and Land Use Coalition, and Professor Ramesh Chandra, member Niti Aayog, who have graced the inaugural session. And I'll say it is the beginning of our activities at WSDS. Now, for the benefit of wider audience, let us reflect on few important facts related to agriculture. Really speaking, you all are experienced professionals and therefore you know quite a bit, or rather perhaps more than me. But just to, so that since we are discussing, let's relook at like what India is a home of about 17% of the world population, but only has 2.4% of the world's land area. So that in a way shows the kind of pressure we have to produce food. In the past 40 years, Indian agriculture has made tremendous progress, spurred by the Green Revolution, which led to widespread adoption of high-yielding varieties of food grains such as wheat and rice, irrigation needs, fertilizers, use of pesticides, and so on. And in the last decade, the agricultural scenario has been facing several challenges, including declining farm profitability, depletion of natural resources, the resurgence of new pests and diseases, global warming, climate change, and so on, and that poses severe threat to sustainability of agriculture as a whole. Given India's wide range of soil, water, and climatic conditions, socio-economic development levels, and science, technology, and innovation, to address these issues will need to be region-specific and that have an interdisciplinary focus. The capabilities and skills for innovation and sustainability hold special significance for addressing the challenges in this sector and steering development in a desirable direction. As India strives to find ways of achieving food and nutritional security, ensuring the sustainability of its food and land use systems, along with the efficient use of natural resources across its diverse agroecological regions, is imperative. Achieving this will mean building the capabilities and high-yielding, high-quality human resources possessing requisite skills for advancing innovation, diversification, commercialization, sustainability, and increased efficiency across the value chain. It is encouraging to note that FOLU has taken the lead in supporting this dialogue, and it is in line with the recent scoping study report, which was brought out in 2021, and that was released in partnership with TERI last year. The report highlights the varying levels of capabilities and skill requirements across the agriculture and allied sectors from the perspective of sustainable food and land use systems. I strongly feel that for the growth and development of agriculture in India, it is crucial to motivate and encourage the youth towards this sector, where new technologies and innovative farming practices can enhance the sector's productivity and effectiveness. It is very discouraging today when you talk to a farmer, and really speaking, his children, they don't want to adopt agriculture as their profession. And I personally feel it may have long-term impact on agriculture in the country. With 35% of the Indian population in the age group of 15 to 35 and 75% of those residing in rural area, agriculture remains and will remain the dominant source of youth employment. It can provide employment opportunities for youth if supported with a range of skill and knowledge, agricultural, financial, entrepreneurship. It is not just producing the food, it is also how do you save that food and how can you add value addition to it. So those are the things for which we need to generate skill set. At TERI, we make efforts to mainstream youth voices in all environment in disclosures. It is critical to understand that the future is in the hands of youngsters, and with them only we can usher in new paradigm of change. Close to 200 students from agriculture-based colleges and universities have expressed interest in today's session, and I do hope that we will be able to organize it regularly as an annual event with several regional outreach activities to maintain the momentum and impact of this initiative and take agriculture to the next level. Thank you so much, and I wish you good luck to have fruitful discussions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dhawan, for setting the context and also, bringing in the whole connect between climate change and mainstreaming of youth engagement. Our next speaker is Dr. K. M. Jayhari, who is the India Country Coordinator for FOLU and Land Use Coalition, which works towards developing long-term pathways for sustainable food and land use system to help inform policy decisions in the country and beyond. I invite him to deliver the opening address.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Dr. Vibhadavan, for a wonderful beginning, and congratulations to TERI for for this the wonderful start of WSDS this year. Coming to the point of beginning this event, FOLU's vision is precisely about an efficient food system in India, which is sustainable, which is a sustainable and lucrative business for the producers and supply chain managers, and it allows the citizens to access, consume, and absorb healthy diet. In this big canvas, which connects the production or the farm to fork in a sustainable manner, we create our programs, especially our partners, lead these programs in a synergized manner. The beginning of this event is basically from the study which TERI has carried out under the FOLU umbrella program, which Manish is going to present very soon. But one point, it clearly demonstrates that the human resources employed in agri and allied sectors in India will not be enough to cater the transition from the present manner to a sustainable and regenerative agriculture. Also, it will require a lot of skill building, a lot of capacity building, a lot of awareness building to take the agriculture and food system in India from the present situation to cater the needs of the future by 2030, 2040. So that the report which Manish will give the presentation after me probably is going to, is demonstrating what kind of requirements these human resources need. We also observe that farming is not like any other livelihood or means of living. We know the difference of livelihood and means of living. Hundreds of people who have made their fortune from IT, from other sectors and other professions are now taking voluntary retirement from their profession and starting their own, agriculture engagements, buying their land and starting farming. Some of the big farmers, which I started interacting right from uh, beginning of my career in early 2000, their children want to become the fourth generation, third or fifth generation planters and farmers, as well as the large farmers are concerned. So all these things, in fact, shows that farming is something different. Farming is something connects nature and humanity in a very charming manner, and the same bond by which the small and marginal farmers are also continuing this profession amidst the miseries and challenges associated with farming. So this is a way of living, in fact, rather than a business or a profession. So today, follow with you are is going to start asking a question: how to make it really possible to reduce the miseries and challenges of the farmers and attract more youths into this, not as a profession but as a way of living or way of having a better living. So this is placed in the FOLU agenda or the FOLU vision canvas to shape the future agriculture sector for India or the food system for India. So keenly looking forward to the outcomes of this good beginning of this thought process. I thank Professor Ramesh Chand for joining us, and all other speakers and presenters for joining us today. Because of the time constraint, not mentioning the names. So thank you, and back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Jai Hari, for underscoring the importance of human resources to agriculture. And we will be hearing more about it in the subsequent presentation. And also for emphasizing on strengthening the connect between, how agriculture strengthens the connect with nature. Since we have all the speakers in now, we could do a quick photo opportunity. So I'd request everyone to click, your camera on so that we can take a image of, all of us together.
Life.
Okay. I'd request all the speakers to switch on their cameras so that we can take a quick snap of all of us together. Okay. We are honored to have the presence of Professor Ramchand, who's a member of Niti Aayog, which is the apex public policy think tank of the Government of India. Besides being an accomplished researcher, he has been involved in policy formulation for agricultural sector for the last 2.5 decades and has chaired important committees on food and agricultural policy set up by various ministries of the Government of India. I'd request him to come and give the keynote address for today's session.
Okay, thank you, madam. My name is Dr. Ramesh Chand, not Ram Chand. Dr. Biba Dhawan, Dr. Jayahari ji, distinguished participants. First of all, I really congratulate the organizer for choosing this important theme for discussion today, breaking barrier, youth and agriculture. And I understand that the workshop plans to discuss this theme under the overarching theme of sustainable agriculture development. First, I would like to share with you some facts related to youth in agriculture. These days, there is a lot of concern. Quite a number of seminars are being organized, which discuss that youth are not staying in agriculture, but will be future of agriculture. But as Dr. Jayahari pointed out, the movement of youth in agriculture is two-way. Those who are in agriculture, they want, many of them want, vast majority of them want to move out of agriculture for greener pasture, for better choices, better opportunities. And on the other hand, many well-educated people who have made their name in different areas, they want to come back to agriculture. So this is what is happening. But those who are desiring to move out of agriculture, their number is much larger compared to those who want to enter into agriculture. Let me just share with you some numbers because right now some concerns are being expressed without looking at where do we stand in terms of hard numbers. And I am sharing these numbers with you because I was doing a study on employment. So I found that these numbers were there. So I thought they may be of interest to the participants in this workshop also. In agriculture, we have 234 million workers during 2019-20. So 234 million workers engaged in agriculture as main worker in agriculture. And the worker in the age group 15 to 29, their number is 47 million, which means that 20% of total workforce in agriculture is in the age group 15 to 29, and rest is in the age group of 30 to 60. So this is the involvement of youth in agriculture, that 47 million of them, they are involved in agriculture. They are involved in agriculture in two capacities. Some of them work as agriculture laborers. Most of them are engaged in agriculture as self-employed, that either they are landowners, either they operate land themselves under their name, or they belong to the family of land operator and work in the own account enterprise as a family member. If we look at this distribution, 74% of youth in agriculture are self-employed, and 26% are either casual labor, small percent also some sort of regular or salaried kind of worker in agriculture. These are not mere number. They have an interpretation that if 74% of youth are self-employed in agriculture, they are the people who take decision in agriculture. The other 26% may not be taking decision. They work for someone. So they do what the person who has hired their service tell them to do. They are not taking the decision. But 74% of the youth who are engaged in agriculture, they are taking the decision about what to grow, how to grow, where to sell, that kind of situation. The data which I looked at, which I am analyzing, it also throws one interesting number that relates to proclivity of youth to stay in agriculture, whether youth have this tendency to leave agriculture, not to work in agriculture. This is true to some extent, because if we look at the age group 15 to 29, then out of the total worker in this age group, 37% are working in agriculture. But if we look at the total, all the ages, then 45.6% are in agriculture. So which clearly shows that the proclivity to work in agriculture in this age group of 15 to 29 is lower than what was the inclination to work in agriculture among relatively aged kind of workers. So given this situation, let us look at how youth can make a difference, what role they can play in sustainability and changing face of agriculture. We have reached a stage in agriculture in India where we can afford to do things in a different way than the way we were doing things in the past. In the past, our main focus was growth in food, grow more food, increase productivity, increase production. But now we have reached a stage where we are surplus at aggregate level. We have to look for overseas markets. At aggregate level, we are surplus to the extent of 7%. This is one issue, that from shortage management, we have now reached a stage of surplus management at aggregate level. No doubt in edible oil and pulses, we are still deficit, but overall, that is the situation. We also have, as Dr. Biva Dhawan mentioned, that there are sustainability issues. There's the issue of water table declining, overexploitation of water table, soil health, climate change. If we look at the past or post-green revolution era, it clearly emerges that we have been sacrificing long run to achieve goal in the short run, because food security was so important. People were starving, we wanted to change it. But now we have reached a stage where we can take a pause and we can afford to look at that strategy, or to work out a different kind of strategy for agriculture. And I give it the name of that we have reached a stage where we need to reimagine agriculture. So when we do this reimagining of agriculture, this is being done if we look at the budget document, that you see that last year, this year, budget talked about chemical-free farming, natural farming, organic farming, and many other kind of thing, how we promote Green India, how we promote sustainability. So, you just find resonance of this reimagining from different quarters in a different way. And I believe that if we have to go for reimagining of agriculture, if there are two kind of stakeholders who are involved in this, one is that young people and other is that older people. So you will find that younger people are more amenable to accept change or to be a part of the change. So our youth, they want to see India as a different, they have different kind of aspiration for new India and for themselves. So they want to be part of that new India, and in that process, they also want their own kind of growth. So how these youth are different than the older generations to reimagine agriculture, to break the barriers? I think there are 7-8 factors. This is just a common kind of thing, but it is important to set the context for this discussion today. One is that if you look at the education level, again, you get this information from PLFS data, Periodic Labor Force Survey. that what are the level of education in 15 to 29 and more than 29. So you find that those in 15 to 29 are having much better education compared to those who are above 29 while working in agriculture, not at overall level. Even those who are working in agriculture, the younger age group has much better education than the older generation. And if a person is educated, it is generally believed that that educated person is can be easily molded to bring change than the person who are not having formal kind of education. In fact, definition of education itself is a relatively permanent kind of change in behavior. So this is one attribute of youth in agriculture. The second is that they have open mind toward new idea. If you want to suggest new idea, that rather than going for flood irrigation, gentlemen, you go for drip irrigation. Rather than broadcasting of fertilizer, you go for drone application of fertilizer. You go for foliar spray. You go for fertigation. So you expect that on an average, the youth is having open mind toward new idea. He doesn't have a closed mind or fixed idea that he will or she will not accept a new idea. So they are not stuck in age-old practices. They are not stuck in even age-old production choices, method of production, and they are not willing to move on a beaten path. They are willing to chart a new path. They are willing to go on a new path and try with new ideas. Another big change, if we look at studies in 70s by N.S. Jodha, he just found that Indian farmers were risk averse. They don't want to grow any crop, or they don't want to adopt any practice where they perceive that there is a risk. But if you look at the present situation, you just find that many farmers, they want to experiment. They are willing to take risk if they feel that this risk is worth taking. There are big return involved in it. This is what we are seeing, that many farmers leave the crop with a short return, but they go for vegetable with this expectation that they can make a better return from it. So they are becoming risk averse. Another big factor, that youth is very technology savvy, both in terms of assessing new information. They know how to use apps, online access to knowledge, and also trying that technology. So this is a big attribute for breaking the barrier, that youth is technology savvy, and technology is extremely important to break the barrier. And other aspects are institution and policy, but technology is very important to break the barriers. Then also, but I gather from my interaction with private sector people, that they find that it is much easier to work with youth. If you talk to any agri-tech firm or any startup, number one, they are started by relatively younger people. And secondly, you will just find that they will tell you that it is much easier for them to work with younger minds than with the older minds. And we have also seen that in FPO movement, if you look at the age profile of its members, so you will get this clear inference that younger people are open to this new kind of institutional arrangement. And we know that most of the quite successful farmer producer companies, they are led by younger people, whether you talk of Sahyadri, whether you talk of Jivika or others. You will just find that they were promoted by relatively younger people. So I sum up that younger people, they have a different kind of human capital, and that human capital is very much needed in agriculture. Modern agriculture, transforming agriculture require that we use knowledge intensive methods, we use capital intensive method. That is something which we need to use, and that will happen if we have a better human capital in agriculture. So with these traits, how youth can contribute to food security, nutrition? I think there are 3-4 simple ways. One is that youth can help in accelerating growth. Obviously, if they are using better seed, if they are following better practice, they are following better management, they will help in accelerating better growth, which means that more food will be available. And when more food is available, you find that prices for consumer don't increase, they remain under control, they may even decline in real terms, which is considered quite favorable for food security. Then with these traits, youth can promote efficiency. They can go for precision farming, those kind of things. Promoting efficiency means real average cost of production goes down. Then third is that with these traits, they will be willing to take up non-conventional farming. They will be willing to adopt nutritionally dense varieties. If you talk to ICR, they will tell you that they have developed 50 varieties which have much better iron, much better zinc, and many other much better kind of things. But if you look at their adoption level, then you find that their adoption level is very, very low. But I feel that we can work with the youth to adopt these nutritionally dense varieties, and also many other fascinating kind of technologies. So with these things, I will expect that whether they are at the farm as a worker, they can make a difference. They can also make difference in 2 other ways: as a farm manager, also as an entrepreneur. So I see these 3 roles for youth. One is as a worker, second is as a farm manager, and third is as an entrepreneur. The last 2-3 points which I want to emphasize is that a new thinking is emerging on role of agriculture in economic transformation. And the genesis of this new thinking is that it was perceived in the traditional model of economic development that industry will offer jobs, people will move out of agriculture, and this is how transformation will happen. But we know now what is the situation of job in industry. Very slow growth in job compared to what is the growth in output. Again, this study which I was sharing with you, that last 3-year PLFS data shows that the jobs created in manufacturing, very small, but very high in agriculture and very high in construction. But in case of manufacturing, the share of manufacturing in the total employment is stagnant, whereas with growth, it should be increasing. Second is opportunity in bioeconomy, lot of opportunities, preference of consumer toward bios, opportunities in food value chain, opportunity in food value addition. So these are new areas where I think modern phase of agriculture in future, but someone need to venture into it. We need to impart the skill. We need to create required environment for youth to take agriculture in this particular direction. But I feel this is the idea whose time has come, and we should channelize energy of our youth in a proper way to see to it that that we are able to achieve the goal of sustainability, the goal of decent jobs, the goal of much better growth in agriculture by assigning new role to agriculture. And there, I feel that youth have to play a key role. So gentlemen, these are some of my thoughts. I hope you will find some of them useful in the subsequent discussion in the subsequent sessions. So thank you for making me part of this important deliberation.
Thank you very much, Professor Ramesh Chand. My sincere apologies. Thank you for a very comprehensive address which covered a multitude of issues, which highlighted, the declining youth engagement, and also importantly the advantages of engaging with youth, and how agriculture can be reimagined through their involvement. So we'll get into the next session, which is basically the presentation of key insights from the TERI FOLU scoping study. I'd like to invite Dr. Manish Anand, who's a senior fellow at TERI, to make this presentation. Dr. Anand is a multidisciplinary professional with more than 15 years of experience in policy research, advocacy, and capacity building, encompassing diverse areas of agriculture, food and land use, resource efficiency, and emerging technologies. Over to you, Manish.
Thank you, Saltanat. I'm just sharing my screen. I hope it's visible now. Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah, very good morning to all of you, and thank you, Professor Ramesh Chand, for your thoughts and setting the context. And you have rightly said that, yes, India has reached a stage where we can reimagine the agriculture system. And with this vision in mind, TERI and FOLU India is working towards this vision. And in the present presentation, what I am going to do is I'll be sharing some insights from the study which has been undertaken by TERI under the FOLU initiative in India. The study mainly highlights the varying levels of capabilities and skills requirements across agriculture and allied sectors from the perspective of sustainable food and land use system, as India is striving to find ways of achieving food and nutrition security. So just a brief background on the institute, the TERI and FOLU India. TERI is an independent, not-profit organization with capabilities in research, policy, consultation, and implementation. It has works in a diverse range of stakeholders in diverse areas of energy, environment, climate change, resources, and sustainability. Also, a brief background about FOLU, which Dr. Jahari has also talked about. So, FOLU in nutshell is a self-governed community of more than 60 organizations and individuals committed to the urgent need to transform food and land use. And it is in India a platform. It is a joint initiative between the Council on Energy, Environment and Water, IIM Ahmedabad, TERI, RRA and Revitalizing Rainfed Agriculture Network, and WRI India. We are working towards developing long-term pathways for sustainable food and land use systems to help inform policy decisions in the country and beyond. So regarding the report, which TERI under the FOLU initiative has undertaken the study and prepared, the report was also launched last year in April, and a national dialogue was also organized to explore way forward to strengthen sustainability of India's food and land use systems through innovative capacities. And it has participation from very esteemed organizations, including National Skill Development Corporation, NABARD, ICR, World Bank, and IFED, among others. So some of the key findings from the study and the link of the study is there, and it is also shared in the agenda, background note of this thematic track. I'm going to share some of the key findings. So the first is few are highlighted in this slides, and the first is more in terms of the research and development spending has not kept pace with the growth in India's gross domestic product over time, and this has led to a decline in agricultural research intensity ratio in recent years, and which has remained unchanged during 2000 to 2017, ranging in 0.27 to 0.3% of agriculture GDP. Second is more in terms of the effective number of scientists engaged in actual research is a small percentage of the total number of scientists in the system. And many of them spend more time in teaching and administrative tasks. And in combination with inadequate funding, this poses a big challenge. A disproportionate share of research activities go to food crops, that too in irrigated areas. This is, as We all know from the Green Revolution days, food shortage days, this has been continuing. However, the composition of grass, value added, and of the food plate of the average Indian has witnessed a change over the years, and to emphasize more in terms of dairy, poultry, fruit, and vegetables. So accordingly, the focus needs to shift to these and to rain-fed agriculture systems. Also, there is an interaction between when it comes to extension system, extension and farmers. However, the interactions between research and extension and between research and farmers are somewhat inadequate and lacking. And the ones there was a very close link between science and public policy, and that is also seen to be weakening, as are the links between scientists and farmers. Cooperatives have a vast network of training institutions, so there is a scope for updating these in terms of content and capabilities in order to meet the challenges and institutional building, say for farmer producers organization. So inadequate participation in a skilling convergence process by the important departments of rural development, land resources, water resources, among others, need to be ensured. And while skill development has been given emphasis in all departments, the skilling programs do not seem to be designed as part of a large picture. So in terms of there's a need to strengthen policy coherence between these identified issues and existing rural development and agricultural schemes. Also, there is a need for inclusion of crop diversification skilling programs in the National Skill Development Corporation, and focusing on building skills along the entire value chain rather than the prevailing bias towards upstream production system. The skills focus should be on better value capture by farmers, for instance, food loss prevention, better pre-processing. Also, skills are needed for seeking opportunities such as carbon finance from climate mitigation activities in agriculture and land use, food safety and labeling, and residue and food waste management. Food and land use also needs to be looked at as systems instead of individual components or short-term outcomes. A systems approach should be linked to changing market trends, should utilize information technology in the agriculture sector, and also should enhance agro-processing, including industrial uses and food supply chains, which will generate new opportunities and make the agriculture system more sustainable. So bringing in mind, bearing in this holistic perspective of agriculture and food and land use systems, the study highlights specific recommendations, which is broken down into short, medium, and long-term actions for enhancing capabilities and skills in the sector. And these are categorized into policy planning and coordination, capacity, demand-side measures, and information systems. So in the following slides, I'm just highlighting few of them, but you may please go through the recommendations in detail provided in the report. So when it comes to policy planning and coordination, attention might be given to basing policy based on agroecological regions, placing greater emphasis on integrated farming and trade conditions, building a holistic and integrated education, research, and extension system, then building public-private partnerships in the agri-food sector. With respect to capacity building, it is suggested to urgently introduce into skilling packs the skills required to meet the key priorities under the National Mission on Sustainable Agriculture and the National Action Plan on Climate Change, which includes diversification of cropping systems, promotion of carbon sequestration in agricultural practices, and building resilience in soils, skilling in carbon finance, etc. Also, restructuring and streamlining the course curriculum in higher education, research and innovation and training packages to make them more interdisciplinary and attuned to sustainability of food and land use system needs to be there. With respect to demand side measures, there is a need to develop an annual survey of workforce and skills requirement for the food sector in conjunction with industry, also generating demand for skilled and quality human resource in the sector through incentives such as conditional loans and subsidies related to the food sector could be looked into. Further, there is a need to more in terms of strengthening and streamlining the Agriculture Skill Council of India Smart Portal for facilitating the single window access to information on capacities, skill sets requirement, and also the popular job categories across the food chain at the agroclimatic zone level. So this is very important at the agroclimatic zone level, if it is available, to address the demand supply gap. And we have to ensure effective participation of relevant actors, including food businesses and industries, and launch a massive awareness campaign on the importance of the portal. With respect to information systems, attention might be given to putting in place real-time management and information systems for agri-logistics, monitoring and implementing the Agriculture Infrastructure Fund for farm-grade infrastructure, also building an online database of all agri-input dealers along with their skill sets. We can also upscale the diploma in agriculture extension services for input dealers, which manage has rightly undertaken this initiative of upscaling is also. Then expand the coverage of registered warehousing with appropriate monitoring and information systems. So in terms of today's session, in order to face the food security and nutrition challenge of the future, including feeding the population with adequate, safe, diversified, and nutrient-rich food, youth can play an important role, as has been highlighted adequately by Professor Chand also. But we know that the majority of youth do not currently see agriculture as a viable career path. So there is a need more in terms of to develop the capacities of the next generation of, so to say, agriculture producer and actors by identifying ways how to engage and empower youth, including both women and man. So the part of the challenge of capacity development is about establishing an enabling environment that makes working in agriculture rewarding and attractive for youth. So another key component is upskilling and training youth already engaged or interested in agriculture to respond to new demands for skills or competency. For instance, by adapting curricula in agricultural education or through the approaches of extension services. Here, the research institutions and academia will play a key role in identifying which approaches are having a measurable impact on food security and nutrition. So we sincerely believe that by bringing together key stakeholders, including youth voices, to engage in constructive dialogues and action on capabilities and skills for advancing innovation, diversification, commercialization, sustainability, and increased efficiency across the value chain, this initiative would provide the desired momentum towards the critical transitions required to transform food and land use in India. Thank you very much for your kind patience. Over to you, Saltanat.
Thank you very much, Manish, for a very detailed presentation, and sharing with us the findings of the study, especially in terms of, what are the short-term, medium, and long-term recommendations that have emerged from it. Before we get into the next session, I would like to request the participants who have logged in to please share, if you have any questions for the panelists, to please put it into the chat. We will be taking that, and we have a dedicated Q&A session where all of these will be addressed as far as possible. So please use the chat session to send in your question. I'd now like to invite Mr. S. Vijay Kumar, who will be chairing the panel session. And for this panel session, we have a set of distinguished panelists, and this session again will throw more light, from their experience and insights. I'd like to introduce Mr. Vijay Kumar, who's a distinguished fellow at TERI. He's been at TERI since November 2013, and he works on policy issues related to natural resources, including land, water, and minerals. He's also the lead for FOLU India country platform, and He was a member of the Indian Administrative Services and has served as the Secretary of the Ministry of Rural Development, and also has served as the Additional Secretary for Ministry of Mines. Welcome, Sir Vijay Kumar.
Thank you very much. And we've had a very interesting and informative start to the program today with excellent sort of pointers from Dr. Dhawan, Dr. Jayhari, and most of all, Dr. Ramesh Chand, and the case presentation by Manish. So to take it forward, I will introduce now a very eminent panel. They are Dr. Satinder Arya, who is CEO of the Agriculture Skill Council of India, and that's particularly important since skilling is at the heart of our discussion. We also have Dr. A.K. Singh, who's Deputy Director General Agriculture Extension in the Indian Council of Agriculture Research, and is responsible for the Krishi Vigyan Kendra program, amongst others. And we have Dr. Rashmi Agarwal, who is Joint Director Education and Dean in the Indian Agriculture Research Institute, which of course is responsible for agriculture research, education, extension, technological innovations, and so on. So I couldn't have asked for a better panel to delve into the issues that have been raised today. We are running a little short of time, so I will request the panelists to sort of slightly be brief and maybe finish their points in about 6 or 7 minutes at the most, so that we have some time for questions. Before the question and answer, actually within this session, we also have 2 case studies. I will introduce the case study presenters after the panel discussion. So with these words, let me now request Dr. Satinder Arya to present his views first, followed by Dr. A.K. Singh and Dr. Rashmi Agarwal. Dr. Arya.
Thanks for inviting, and I will keep my observation short, and I would not be repeating some of the very good points made by Professor Ramesh Chand as well as Manish. So just, to take up with the challenges that we face in agriculture, engagement of youth is basically, as Professor Ramesh Chand had shared, that the breakup between uh, the cultivators and laborers. The fact of the matter is that the level of formal skilling in agriculture sector has been absolutely low and less than 0.5%, though we claim to have almost 47% of the entire workforce engaged in agriculture. And I think quite a lot of it is from the very fact that various kind of studies comes in, and they generally point it out that there is an abundance of people engaged in the on farm activities. There is and no skill gap. They actually try to perceive the huge numbers with no skill gap, whereas we are adding one Australia every year to our population, and in the the cities are expanding, population is expanding, land availability is decreasing. You want the drudgery to reduce, the low cost farm mechanization to go up, and all it requires is skilling. I think a lot of reason can be attributed that there has been too much focus on wage-based employment rather than self-employment. There is also, there was this question which was, in the concept note, that how do you make agriculture and food system to be most attractive choice? I think one of the major thing that is required is vocational identity. And we at Agriculture Skill Council of India is the various skilling initiatives are the ones which is for the first time giving some kind of vocational identity. It's very important to, call for, and you'd be surprised that when we are doing skilling, we have almost got 186 various kind of, job roles and occupations which are available in agriculture, which is not actually known to the vast masses, and they always feel कि एक ही farmer होता है, वो सब कुछ ही कर देता है. The second thing is, the rural youth is having its own aspirations. You need to reduce the drudgery. He also wants to own one mobile, and there is nothing wrong with his aspirations. So you need to make the agriculture aspirational, and it can be given, coming from whatever the technology orientation you should be giving to this youth, because that plays a very important role for glamorizing the sector and also making him aware about the entrepreneurial opportunities. The very fact, I keep on reading in the newspaper, so many startups, so many apps, different kind of, agriculture startups coming. But are we making the relevant effort for skilling our youth how to make use of those apps, for which it has been intended to be developed? So we have got many apps, but I don't know how many of us we have skilled in this, usage of apps. There was also this particular, issue which has been raised on fostering innovation and entrepreneurship amongst youth. We need to, make skilling or any kind of training link it with the credit availability. If there is no credit availability at the end of any kind of training, then, the gainful employment is not there. So we need to, make this financial literacy and the digital literacy an integral part of any kind of upskilling program that we are there. I'm not touching upon what Agriculture Skill Council of India has done. Whatever we have done, I think a lot of credit goes to our partner institutions and our sporting institutions. And I see Dr. A.K. Singh participating. We had great support from ICR. Otherwise, whatever we have done, it would not have been possible without the support of, the related institutions. So if today Manish is working on this particular aspect and he wants to, talk about the skills, climate change, sustainability, we are more than eager to partner on this aspect. There are some other also, elements. When we talk about entrepreneurship, we need to make it a youth would connect with youth. So I, sometimes see so many of people getting rewarded, recognized. But why do we see the same kind of faces being recognized, awarded, same kind of, this thing? Why can't we have the youth less than 35 years of age and don't repeat them more than twice a year? People would like to see more new faces, okay, a successful model. Also, we did not, now put cost in printing success story. Unko padne ka aaj ke din mein kisi ke paas mein waqt nahi hai. Why don't we go for short clips, success stories? These are, believe you me, may turn out lesser in cost, more in circulation. Also, agar आधे घंटे में पूरे इंडिया में कोई चीज, हो जाती है. And I have seen kids from the villages, sometimes making so nice videos and how their parents are collecting the tomatoes or segregating them. As simple as that, but very effective. One more thing, which I think the question which has been raised is how do we, relate the quality-based education and training. The government of India had mandated all kind of capacity building to be related to the NSQF, National Skill Qualification Framework. We can talk it sometime later. But the new education policy has to kick in from this year. And I'm sure the ICR institutions would be also integrating the entire emphasis of new education policies about employment generation and how do you provide the apprenticeship opportunities to the college goers. So very important that we look at the elements of the new education policy and try to make a correlation of agriculture institutions with this new education policy, number one. Number two, very important that though we are talking about skilling of many para-professionals, but at the same time, we need to be very, very careful. I see a mushrooming of so many private agricultural institutes coming in, and they are having 400, 500, graduates getting produced and without no land availability, no practical knowledge. So I'm sure they are going to give a competition to the genuine product. It's not about, because it's going to impact your academic things in the future. They would ask for those admissions and it is going to be proving a challenge because कोई institution पहले बन जाता है उस चीज को break करना बहुत मुश्किल है लेकिन अगर आप अभी से prevent करेंगे for quality education, it's very important. Third is, whatever the flagship schemes of government are going, can we look at where is the agriculture skilling का स्थान कहाँ है? If we talk about the flagship scheme of Ministry of Rural Development, DDGKY, Deen Dayal Upadhyay Gramin Kaushal Vikas Yojana. Now, how come the agriculture skilling is missing there? Because the nature of the scheme is to provide wage-based employment, and nothing wrong with that. But if you're talking about rural skilling, so agriculture has to be an integral part of it. So for agriculture, self-employment should be introduced for this DDGKY. Otherwise, what will happen? We would keep on talking about skilling. DDGKY would say, go to NRLM. NRLM would say, oh, you talk about skilling, you go to DDGKY, but hum livelihood ki baat karte hain, which has got nothing to do with skilling. But if skilling is there, it will lead to vocational identity. And believe you me, because it's leading to, आज के दिन में Indian diaspora गैर कानूनी तरीके से इटली में जाके उसका exploitation होता है. Why can't we have a skill certification and proper this thing? And they're giving due weightage in the migration as well. We can also look at the possibility, अगर agriculture 49-48% employment generate करता है, क्या भारतीय skilling के अंदर में 20% जो earmarking हो वो agriculture sector के लिए नहीं होनी चाहिए? So it's that thing. Of course, good efforts are being made in schools. Ministry of Education is doing good work, and करीब 1700 स्कूलों के अंदर में 9th, 10th और 11th, 12th में agriculture job roles लिए जा रहे हैं, and ये काफी अच्छी पहल है. तो चाहे वो मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ एजुकेशन की हो और यूजीसी ने भी अपने स्तर पे काम किया है कि उन्होंने कम्युनिटी कॉलेजेस और बीवॉक प्रोग्राम, बिकॉज वी हैव गॉट many agriculture and veterinary universities. They produce high quality caliber kids. They are meeting a certain set of requirements. But if we have to produce more entrepreneurs, so we need paraprofessionals, and nothing wrong in having this diploma and an advanced diploma to feed in the supervisory and actual, vocational implementers. So these are some of my points, and I will just wind it up with one last thing, which is about apprenticeship opportunities. I think India, in the last 3 years, the number of apprentices have increased, and there is a tremendous opportunity for apprenticeship in the organized sector of agriculture, though the organized piece of agriculture is only maybe around 3%, but yet once we start making a show of it, yes, that apprenticeship opportunities are getting generated, it leads to employment opportunities, and that's how the people would get attracted. So these are some of my random points. I'm more than happy to connect with any of the panelists, and thanks once again to all the stakeholders whose institutional support has made it possible for us to be here where we are. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Arya, and I really like your point about the gap between the NRLM, which provides livelihoods, and DDU-GKY, which is known for skill, and what happens to agriculture. So, of course, the MKSP is a women's in agriculture, but it's still not yet a skilling program. So I think you made a very important point, and I hope somebody in the Ministry of Rural Development is looking on. I now move to Dr. A.K. Singh, who is the Deputy Director General Agriculture Extension ICAR. And as I said, he's looking out the Krishi Vigyan program, Krishi Vigyan Kendra program, and also attracting the program called Attracting and Retaining Youth in Agriculture. Acronym is ARYA. No, it's a coincidence, of course, but I'm sure he would like to include in his presentation something about that. Dr. A.K. Singh.
Thank you, sir, Honorable Chairperson, and all the distinguished presenters, and also all the colleagues who have joined here. Thankful to all of you for giving this opportunity. The tone of this presentation is already set by many distinguished speakers, including Professor Ramesh Chand and others, and DG Terry also. See, my presentation will largely be focused on, you can say, the ICR side of efforts made for youth empowerment. And the innovations will be on the back of the, you can say, all the points which I will highlight. And we are running some programs for imparting training and skilling to youth. And largely what ICR approach is, and rightly said by many of earlier speakers, that youth has to be provided all kinds of skilling and training so that they could establish their own enterprises, they could become entrepreneurs. And for that, ICR long back started agri-business incubators in many of the ICR institutions. And this is there so that the technology which are getting generated, the innovations which are generated, they can be mainstreamed. The youth could be brought to the campuses, they could be trained, not for, you can say, a few weeks, but for a longer duration of 2 to 3 years, a kind of hand-holding and incubation happening at the ICR campuses on many of the products. And we have seen that many of the startups over time have come up. We can take up next one. And similarly, we have got zonal technology management and business promotion development units at many of our ICR institutions. And when I am talking about these institutional efforts, because we find that in the rural areas, people are not much interested in farming. They are trying to live, and even for the petty jobs, and even for, you can say, not a classified job role, they are coming to the urban basis. So how to create a job which is much attracted to them, and how even youth who are educated and highly educated also, how they can opt for all those business models which can be, you can say, created and developed in the institutions, the specialized institutions which are working on different commodities. So for that we have done, and BPDs which are there with many institutions working on, you can find millets, animals, horticultural products, they are all doing that kind of interventions. Now, once we come to our own institution, one institutions, IRI, they have got very successful BPD unit, and they are incubating youth for a longer time. They are commercializing technologies. And we are also aware that many of the technologies about which Dr. Ramesh Chand was also mentioning, once they get developed by institutions, I am quoting the model of IRI, but other institutions also, once those technologies are getting developed, they are commercialized to some youth who is coming, and they are creating some business models for them. We also find that certain partnerships are also happening with the industry for large-scale outscaling of the technologies. And we also see that many of the technologies and varieties which are developed by institutions of ICR, they are outscaled because on a larger area, because there are industry and their partners, there are civil societies which are coming forward to take those technologies. Next, please. Next, please. So there is another very important program which is supported by Government of India, ARISE, which is being run by IRI. And as the business models in which the youth is interested, we can see that even in biotechnology, IT, agri-inputs, precision farming, dairy, and post-harvest technology. So the youth which is educated, and not only in agriculture, but other sectors also, if they are graduated, we find even engineers, even students who have passed out from management, they are coming to IRI and they are getting that kind of skilling, incubation, and a kind of support from the government also to establish their own startups. Next. Now the other thing which I personally find, that when we are talking about skilling youth, and the government has fixed up a target of 10,000 FPOs in the country, and I think there can be different kinds of startup models which can happen. There can happen aggregation of, you can say, produce. The youth can come together. They can also get specialized kinds of skills in terms of input management, in terms of marketing, and also processing, value addition, and other aspects which are required. So I find FPOs will emerge as a bigger platform for any kind of, you can say, skilling and other aspects which are related for, you can say, promotion of agriculture in the rural sector. Next. ICR also, through its institutions and KVKs, we are also directly implementing some farmers producer organizations, and we have also agreed that the entire FPO which will be created, they will be supported as and when required by those FPOs in terms of technology package staffing. The other program which we are running is the attracting and retaining youth in agriculture. And again, we are doing in many sectors. Youth may be interested in the honey production, youth may be interested in the mushroom production, and accordingly, but these models which we are pursuing in the ARIA program, it's not a big scale kinds of entrepreneurs, but it's smaller level. They can do themselves and they can integrate 4 or 5 other youth in their own activities which they are carrying out there in the rural settings. So this has come up well, and I have personally visited many locations, and I find that when we talk of doubling farmers' income, so the easiest way is that you try to include or you can say associate one enterprise, economic enterprise, with all the already existing farming practices a farmer is doing. And we have seen that with the smaller, you can say, units also, on an average, they can aid about 12,000 rupees per month. And that's a big gain for farmers and youth who are staying in the villages, other than the agriculturally, whatever they are able to produce from their own farm. And it can happen, and we have practiced it at other locations. And we find this is one scheme which gives a concept that this kind of initiatives, if we take, we can attract more youth in agriculture than what we are seeing that people are migrating. Next. So this is the last slide which I wanted to mention, but at the end I will like to say that you can close this slide, Dr. Manish. So what I wanted to say that as far as my experience is concerned, once we talk about the rural areas, and if we have to attract youth, there may be 2-3 things. One is very important, that we start skilling youth, as said by Dr. Arya also. But at the same time, we have to have options for higher level of skilling, not giving some training for establishing small units, but can youth come for a bigger kinds of enterprises? And there would be a kind of success that they will not be employing themselves, but they can employ others also. And what we are seeing as of now, that many skilling programs which are running, that is centered only for his own kinds of, you can say, employment opportunities, but not a kind of unit which can employ others also. We have also experienced that many educated youth in other sectors also, they are coming and they are trying to establish their enterprises on a larger scale. So I need to say that those enterprises which are getting established, they have to link with the institutions of excellence which are doing on those commodities. The second point which is important, which I would like to say, that this FPOs which are getting developed, they should be considered as a platform for the startups also. And if that we can look into probably, and some of the FPOs can be converted, like you can say bigger opportunity for some business models, it will be, you can say, sustaining thing for production, productivity and profitability, what we have been talking all the time. The last point will also I like to mention that Professor Ramesh also mentioned that agriculture has not to be as usual, and often we focus on production side and other aspects are left out. So the focus of any enterprise should be based on, you can say, the environmental factors, which are, you can say, looking into the soil and water resources which we have, and the pollution and other aspects which are happening, and many kinds of, you can say, hazardous things happen when we are not taking care of. So a kind of holistic model we have to look into even when we go for enterprises. So thank you very much, and if somebody is willing to ask some questions, always welcome. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Singh. And I now turn to the third and last panelist, Dr. Rashmi Agarwal, who is Dean IARI. Dr. Agarwal, you have about 6-7 minutes since we are running a little.
Thank you, Chairman. And it's my pleasure, and I'm happy that you invited me. I have made a very few number of slides. If you permit, I will share the slide. Are my slides visible?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. And the topic given to me was imparting robust and responsive agricultural curriculum. So, respected Ramesh Chandji, who is an eminent agricultural scientist and a member Niti Aayog, and our DDG Extension, Dr. A.K. Singh, and all the distinguished invitees. Much has been said about how we can attract the youth and empower them through skill developments. I also have made few slides just mainly highlighting how the course curricula or inbuilt course curricula can be made for attracting the youth in agriculture sector. So most of my predecessor has have also said that in most, and I will also reiterate that most of the developing countries, the youth may be disinterested in learning the traditional way of farming, as we are seeing in our country also, and which is not aligned with their aspirations of having a more modern lifestyle, or they want to take up some certain areas like technology or engineering or medicine, but they don't want to take up agriculture as their professions. And also at the same time, there is agricultural production itself is seeing a lot of changes. Like there is a climate change and other forms of environmental degradation which pose serious risks. And there are a large number of people who are leaving agriculture, and there is instability of the global market. And young people today also have access to new forms of technology and innovative models of agricultural marketing, which Dr. Professor Ramesh Chand also mentioned. And there are several countries now they have started realizing that these needs and launching national schemes to introduce formal standardized agricultural training programs. And several countries are also taking such projects of agricultural skill development with sustainability objectives. For example, developing skills in organic farming and climate change adaptation. This is just an example I've taken. And the globalization and rapid advances in information and communication technologies are also expanding the opportunities for collaboration and networking. And agricultural science graduates are now expected to be critical thinkers, multidisciplinary problem solvers, and team players who should be work ready. The agricultural curriculum to be framed looking into the needs of the stakeholders. And then among the university, there is a need for transparency and comparability within and between the curricula. This will help the students to study more efficiently, teachers to manage the learning of diverse student population more effectively, and at the same time, prompt innovative teaching and enable responsive management will take place. As one of the speakers or a CEO from our Agricultural Skills Council of India also mentioned in detail about all the modalities of Agricultural Skill Council of India, and this also I took from the net only. There they have standardized qualification packs for more than 160 job roles in agriculture, and these are being implemented in 200 to 300 hour training programs. There are diversity of the programs and to increase the youth involvement in agriculture. One is placing the agricultural tertiary education, which is very important. Then post-harvest agriculture in changing climate. As we see, a lot of post-harvest losses are there. Value addition chain can also be implemented. Then wrapper modules. This is a reusable curriculum approach to recognize and enhance the learning program. Then shaping agriculture innovation systems responsive to food security and climate change. And new technologies that can solve farmers' problems and increase agricultural productivity, and the skills and the knowledge built up at tertiary education level. The skills knowledge development in commercial agriculture is also one of the very important area to generate higher income among the farmers. So these are some of the shortlisted areas for the enriching curriculum which can promote tertiary agriculture education, which I have highlighted here. One is that agribusiness, which earlier also our professor Dr. A.K. Singh also mentioned, agribusiness clinics and centers. This will provide expert advice and services to farmers on various aspects to enhance productivity of crops and animals. Then farm clinics, that's another area. Skills to test soil, water, and plant quality, knowledge on integrated nutrient management. Custom hiring centers is a platform to aggregate services and provide the farm equipments on hiring basis. Then artificial intelligence and IoT based solution providers. This is digital platforms for advisories as well as trading of agriculture inputs and produces, drone based farm operations, communication facilities, market related information, weather advisories, disease and pest forecasting, print and broadcast agricultural journalism. Then branding or certification facilities for agricultural produce or products, particularly in niche areas like nutritive crops and diets, organic products, climate readiness. Then advertising and promotion services like advertising and marketing of value added products or geographical indicated products. Then landscape designers, nursery managers, florists and forestry experts. These can also manage natural resources on both public and private lands. And then transportation and logistics. This is also one of the aspects, very important criteria. Skills to safely transport the farm produce through rail, bus, air, sea, or with lowest possible transit losses and spoilage. So, and the insurance services. The course is on risk estimation and analysis in case of failure of any of the notified crop as a result of natural calamities, pests and diseases. These are some of the course curricula, although they are there, but a strong skill development and knowledge development is required for the agriculture youth. This curriculum also should ensure social consciousness and commitment to rural communities, technological competent and relevant, equipped with necessary soft skills as well, and as financial and business skills and ability to work with local and especially rural communities is required in this case. Have understanding of the scientific and technical principles of the agricultural technologies, then orientation to export opportunities for small farmers and commodity groups. The leadership, interpersonal, team building and communication skills, effective use of international business languages and information technology. This is a very, very important if you talk of export opportunities. Emphasis upon entrepreneurial skills, actual experience in planning and operating a productive enterprise. And finally, collaborative curriculum development is also required with our private partners, as they also have a they are the stakeholders and have a very important role to play with this. So this is all in curricula, which the topic which was given to me, and thank you very much all of you for. We will have the discussions because it's a panel discussion, so we can discuss on these topics.
Thank you so much, Dr. Agarwal. Really interesting to for you to, in a sense, list out the many skills in the agri ecosystem that are required, which are not specifically agriculture related, but enable better and more efficient agriculture and agri-related practices. Could be financial, economic, engineering, basic science, applied sciences, meteorology. You mentioned insurance. Insurance and meteorology are closely connected because, that's how the insurance people still make money. So thank you very much. We are running a bit late, but we would like to include two case studies which hopefully should exemplify some of the things that we've been discussing. We have with us Mr. Sharath Loganathan. He is a serial entrepreneur and co-founder of Ninja Cart. And we also have Sangeeta Chopra. Do we have her with us? Dr. Chopra? I think perhaps not. So I will now request Mr. Sharath to present his case study, which relates to supply chains. I think nothing exemplifies better the complexity of modern agriculture than the value addition that is involved outside the farm gate up to the fork, as Dr. Jahari mentioned early on. So Sharath, it's all yours. You have about 5 minutes because then we'll move on to the question and answers.
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for making me part of this session. I think I have learned more than I can contribute here because from whatever Professor Ramesh Chand sir, Dr. Manish, and definitely Dr. Dr. Satendra Arya have shared here, right? Especially these people when they share the numbers and when they have shared information, I think I have learned more than what I could contribute here as Ninja as a case study, right? So, pertaining to what we are discussing here, I think we've gotten into agriculture business. We got into the post-harvest ecosystem, as correctly pointed out by many people over here. There's a lot of problem in marketing ecosystem, and that's where we solve because we are in surplus. And right now there are problems in how agriculture products are marketed, and it's a very large ecosystem, and that's how we started our journey here. And definitely, as mentioned, a lot of technology plays here, which has helped us in kind of creating the distribution network for perishables. So we kind of built up a supply chain which transports 1,200 or 1,300 tons of vegetables within 14 hours to 18 hours of time between harvest and at the time it reaches a retailer, right? So that is something that has happened only because we have invested a lot in our technology. But when compared to how all the larger markets work, the economics is a tough competition because in this marketing ecosystem of agri-produce, there are a lot of micro entrepreneurs who are doing a lot of small jugadu work and trying to make things work, and are not abided by the nature or the laws of what pertain to a corporate, right? As simple as how much minimal load a truck can take is something limited when it comes to a formal way, but in an informal nature, there is no load. They just overload the vehicle and send, which also improves the way efficiency of it. But then I don't surpass it. So there's a lot of ways, challenges in which are still have to be tackled. But in particular to kind of attracting youth to agriculture, what I see is that a lot of relevant information which FOLU and Terry have shown here in terms of the gaps between science, policy and practice is something that I have seen personally myself, wherein a lot of graduates from the agriculture universities are aiming for bank jobs, and the landowners who do farming have sent their sons and daughters for IT, and with the overflooding of IT and engineers in the market, they are back to their farm working the same old methods that their father was using, right? So a lot of these innovations are still stuck in the notebooks and has not reached the market, though we are talking about a little wherever larger players, right, the larger land holdings. There we have seen the way to make it efficient has worked because technology works with a particular scale. But for smaller farmers and marginal land holdings, it is still an issue. And that is where, youth at a rural area should come together. And that is where, as rightly pointed out, an agro-ecological route where it makes sense. A beautiful example is how Nashik has evolved, where the grapes ecosystem has developed, right? So we should definitely look at other agro-ecological regions and crops that can come out and improve how we can do much more better crops and target exports. And that is the way forward, is what I believe. A lot more emphasis and skill empowerment should go towards how people can export their produce, because we being at surplus, I strongly believe that looking out in terms of our produce, and India is one of the largest producer of fresh and also agri commodities. Looking outwards and encouraging people to look outwards and enabling them to do the trade is something that is going to go a long way for us. This is my learning that I have shared with my experience, I think. And once again, I would thank all the eminent members here for making me part of this study. I would especially thank Saltanat for making me part of the study, because I have learned, I have made notes from this 400 plus experience of all the people put together here. And I think that is going to really help me in my endeavor at NinjaPad. Thank you one and all.
Thank you, Sharath. With that, we come to the end of this part of the session. We now go over to the questions and answers. I will request Sultan to... Sultanat, is Sangeeta Chopra, has she been able to join?
Yes, she has joined. So could quickly have her in. I think that would be fun, and we'll start with the Q&A.
Dr. Sangeeta Chopra, principal scientist in the Indian Agriculture Research Institute, to join us and share her case study in about 5 minutes, if she can. Now request Sangeeta.
Well, thank you so much for this opportunity, and I'm sorry I couldn't join MS Teams earlier, but I have my presentation here. The technology is about, so can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. So, well, this is a technology that we have developed here in IARI, and it is called PUSA Farm Sun Fridge. And as the name suggests, it's an on-farm storage structure, and it's a cold store which runs entirely on solar energy during the day, and at night time we have an innovative water battery. So there is no electricity and no batteries, and it's a storage structure for storage of perishables, and the capacity is around 2 tons of fruits and vegetables. And this is the block diagram. So we have solar panels and the inverter unit. We have a solar adaptive controller which tests how much sunlight is there, and accordingly it changes the power to the compressor, the refrigeration system. We have a specialized refrigeration system wherein we are cooling the air during the day as well as water, which is called the water battery. So that is the thermal reservoir, which is a water battery for nighttime cooling. And the structure is special in the sense it is, there are no walls. It has a styrofoam insulation and special blocks called AAC, that is autoclaved aerated concrete blocks, not bricks anywhere. The walls are made up of mesh and wetted fabric. So the fabric helps the solar refrigeration by aiding by evaporative cooling. And these are the components of the farm sun fridge. And so we call it the first and the last link in the cold chain for perishables. This is the size. It's around 3 meters by 3 meters by 3 meters. The picture you see here is of the farm sun fridge that we have made on the Mela ground of IARI recently in February 2021, last year. So it has mesh supported fabric walls. You can see that yellow fabric here, styrofoam insulation. So as low cost insulation as possible. This is for the farmers, to be utilized by farmers. So there's a water battery inside for nighttime cooling, the thermal storage for the nighttime cooling, a pump. So this pump works during the day on solar energy, and it fills this water battery with cold air, cold water during the day. And that's circulating all day. And this cold water passively keeps the room cool at night. The drip line for wetting the fabric, just like the drip irrigation pipeline, which the farmers are already using. 12 solar panels, it's a 5 kilowatt system, split air conditioner. So the air conditioner is special in the sense we've split the evaporator coil, and we have a hybrid inverter which does not need a grid and does not need batteries. So you can see how the inside looks, and on the left side you can see the picture on top. The ceiling is having this water battery, and you have the on the right side the inside where that's thermal storage, and how the evaporator coil has been split. And it has a solar adaptive controller. It's automatic start and stop. It's around 2 to 3 degrees Celsius during the day without electricity, and reaches around 8 to 10 at night. The inside relative humidity is greater than 90%. Right, okay. So we have conducted field trials. This is the 5th structure that we have made, and the first structure has been made in 2000, in the early 2000 in village Picholia in Ajmer, Rajasthan, and the second one in Chamrara in Panipat, Haryana. The third demonstration unit, the picture that you saw at IARI Mela ground, Fourth, we have already, now it says to be built. This is an old presentation, but we've already built it in Kolhapur, in Block Palla in New Delhi. And the fifth, there are some which are in the pipeline to be built by licensees. People have taken license. So give me a minute, something. Yeah, this is okay. So this is the picture of the first structure that we made. So there is the change in the design as we are progressing with structures. We are changing the design. So this is the first structure in Rajasthan. It's made with the RCC roof, but gradually the one you saw on the Mela ground has a frame structure, and the one we have made in Palla and Kolhapur is on nuts and bolts. So it's completely portable. We can just load the sun fridge, manufacture it at another place in an industry, load it on a transport unit and take it and install it. That's the newest design. And this is in Chamrara, also the RCC roof. And this one you see is not RCC roof, and you can see that there are metro sheets on top and solar panels on top of them. This is for the Mela ground, but the one we have made in Balla is just on nuts and bolts. These are some visitors. We have lots of visitors coming here. We had even Dr. Extension DDG also has visited. And of course, it was inaugurated by the Union Ministers of Agriculture in 2020, the one on Mela ground. And we are also data logging. For the last 5 years, we've been data logging. The first unit we had built in IARI division, so also for the research purpose. And FSF is farm centric, so we are logging the inside temperature, ambient temperature, solar panel, water battery temperatures, etc. And this is some of the data that I can show you. This is from 2021. And you can see this is the outside temperature. And then the solar panels. So you can see the solar panel temperature, outside temperature in month of March last year was around 30. But the solar panel temperature already reached 50 or so. There's something, okay. And then you see how the water battery temperature remains, the blue line is the water battery temperature, which remains below 10 degrees. So this is all 24 hours data, and every 15 minutes. That's being recorded by the data logger. And during the daytime, the temperature goes down, and then it increases during the nighttime. And this is the inside temperature, the air temperature. So the dip is during the day, and then it increases gradually, and then the day comes again, and then it increases. So, but it remains below 10. This is the produce that we put inside. So the produce was put inside and in the month of March around 30 Celsius, but reached around 10 in 24 hours within 24 hours. Then we put the produce again, and you see how the temperatures came down. The important considerations, well, this presentation made for another purpose, so I've put in some points here. That is some maintenance points. We have installed a lightning arrestor, and we've done proper earthing, cleaning of panels is a necessity, the safety of panels, and of course the structure does have the structural strength. And you can see we are constantly having visitors here, farmers visiting the Mela ground, which has proven to be a pretty successful from the point of demonstration unit. And this is how we keep the produce inside. And some of the prominent queries have come from Bill and Gates Foundation, and many people. After 2020, we've received lots of calls and around 5 emails a day, people wanting to make it on their farms. And IARI is working out a methodology of doing that. And lots of coverage of this farm centrage online as well as in print. And so these are some of the details. If you can see on YouTube and newspaper articles. And we've also made, we want this farm centrage, like you can see in the Mission for Integrated Development for Horticulture, we have already a pre-cooling unit and cold room. So what the intention here is to include an evaporative cold room also. See, PUSA zero energy cool chamber. The intention here is to include the farm centrage also in this guidelines, so that farmers can have easy access if they want to build it. So this is the short presentation made very quickly. So the technology here is off-grid solar refrigerated batteryless PUSA farm centrage, and that's it. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Chopra. Very interesting, because I think a lot of people know that and there's a CPET study of the ICAR which shows that the wastage among perishables can go as high as 40%.
Yes.
And so, innovations like this and other innovations, the different technologies are needed all over the country in order to reduce wastage. Reducing wastage is as good as producing more. In fact, in many ways better. So I think that's an excellent example, and I hope it provides an inspiration to all those who are watching. So with that, I come to an end of this part of the session, and we move over to question and answers. I hope Saltanat has been able to put together some of the questions, maybe in the interest of time, consolidate them, and we have time for perhaps 2 questions. So Saltanat, if you can pose the question and maybe request the panelists to answer. If there's any particular, if the subject relates to any particular panelist, then we can put it to him. Any of the panelists like.
Yes, so there is a question where one of the participants, Mr. Devashish Bhandari, has shared his experience where he said that there has been a challenge that his family faces from agriculture, and that is reduced agricultural returns due to high input costs. So key natural resources, biodiversity and ecosystem upon which agriculture is reliant on have been degraded or lost in some cases irreversibly. Land and water are 2 important resources for the sustenance of agriculture, and there are policy interventions in place for the same. They are looking for some pointers how youth can effectively contribute towards it.
Perhaps Dr. Singh may like to address that question.
Thank you. He raised a quite, you can say, broader question which is being asked everywhere nowadays. And we have seen that over time, organic carbon has reduced drastically in the soils, less than 0.5%. And there is a lot of emphasis to go for, you can say, organic farming. And the government is telling that you have to opt for natural farming also. And all these is being said so that the soils which are now seek for many nutrients, how they can be made organically rich. And we have seen that some programs are also running on, you can say, crop residue management. So all the waste which is coming out of soil, that can be incorporated in the soils and that can enrich the soil. So there are many options by which natural resources can be, you can say, utilized for enriching the soil and also judicious use of water. And I hope that wherever he is, he can come into contact of the institutions which are working there. There are Krishi Vigyan Kendras in each district. There are ICR institutions, there are agriculture universities. I mean to say that technology and practices are already in place. But while doing farming, many times we forget and we go for production. And we have seen in case of Haryana and Punjab, especially, water table is going down. And many studies have come that we have to restrict water exploitation, groundwater exploitation. So it has to be a kind of judicious agriculture. We have got many technologies, which is even polyhouse cultivation, even drip irrigation, and crop diversification has been suggested. So there are options, and he has to come into contact of those. His views are very, you can say, specific, and his concern is welcome. So if he is coming in our touch, we can definitely support the kind of agriculture which he is trying to pursue.
Thank you so much, Dr. Singh. Do we have time for one more question, Sultana?
Yes, and I think Dr. Jaihari wanted to even provide the FOLU perspective to the same question.
Okay. Dr. Jaihari, please go ahead.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Saltanat. Very briefly, this is a great sharing of experience, and we are getting these signals from more farmers on ground. And FOLU has initiated a program called FOLU India Sustainable Agriculture Initiative, which has two programs running under that in 4 landscapes in India. One is a district, and others are two gram panchayats in 3 states. So probably from our side, we are trying to make certain open laboratories where people can go and see how this transformation to a new regenerative and sustainable agriculture can happen, through which we will be able to address these issues. And certainly, as I told right in the beginning, these are all synergized programs, and we would definitely look for how youth can be more involved into it. So maybe he can, Mr. Debashish can get in touch with us in case, he just to look whether certain association or knowledge exchange can happen. And I really value the comments from, I see, Dr. Hekasing also. Thank you. Thanks, Jay.
Yeah, one more point I wanted to add.
Yes.
So we have also created 151 clusters of villages in the country addressing different agroclimatic situations. And whatever you can say vagaries are happening there, accordingly, strategy has been based on ground, involving farmers and other stakeholders. So those locations also might be quite useful for his interest. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Singh. Saltanat?
Yes, so I'll go ahead with the second question. Just providing a little bit of a context to the question is, as rural and agricultural markets are transforming, youth today need a range of skills and knowledge with regard to agricultural, financial, entrepreneurial, as well as broader environment of youth targeted policies and investments. What are the challenges, successes, and lessons learned related to development of knowledge, skills, and capacity for youth in agriculture, so that the potential and talent of young people can be used as an engine to drive change in agriculture and food systems that can provide sustainable food security and nutrition for everyone?
Right, thanks. I heard both skills and knowledge there. So perhaps we can start with Dr. Arya. Would he like to respond to parts of that question at least? In case he is not there, can I turn to Dr. Rashmi Agarwal? Can she hear?
I'm there, sir. In terms of challenges, there are quite a few challenges are there in imparting such skill or knowledge development among the youth. I'll say the first challenge is lack of some of the existing institutional capacities. So that is one of the challenges, and the other challenge is that potential beneficiaries also do not have time for getting skilled or trained sometimes, because they, for example, if you take example of women force, if we want to break barriers, we may have to invite women young entrepreneurs or into the agriculture. So that's also one aspect of breaking the barriers. But often they face many problems, like they have to manage both agricultural and domestic responsibilities. So that in that context, some of this is also one of the barriers, that they do not have much time for getting upscaled or trained or getting skill development done. And there is also must be trainees also must be prepared for technology and environmental change. For example, if we talk of precision farming or micro irrigation or vertical farming, all these are all, as we say, these are the potential solutions for pressing the challenges before the youth. And then the lack of funding, that's also one of the challenge. The institutions or organizations, they should have enough of funding to take up these knowledge and skill development programs. And also sometimes agricultural training also must be responsive to the local demands. So that's also one of the challenges for the agricultural extension workers and planners. So this is all I thought I will share.
You're quite right, Dr. Agarwal. Earlier Dr. Satinder Arya mentioned about the DDU-GKY, which is the Gramin Kaushalya Yojana, and the NRLM, which is the Rural Livelihoods Mission. And he pointed out that, formal skilling for agriculture is not included in either of the two programs. It's falling in between. I do remember when I was in the ministry under NRLM, there was actually a training program called Mahila Sashaktikaran Pariyojana, Mahila Kisan Sashaktikaran Pariyojana, which actually used the template and framework of the women's self-help group to propagate specific improved practices. And I remember the SRI, that is the rice intensification program of closer planting of rice seedlings for higher productivity, that was done in several parts of the country. So there are many institutions and systems available, and the issue perhaps is also of scaling, as you say, of funding, and also of scaling and sustaining the initiative over a longer period till that particular skill gets embedded within the local community. So could we have one quick question? Anything on the two case studies, Saltanat, that the participants had, maybe? Because I do think we should not only look at the formal agriculture side, but also on the larger ecosystem around agriculture, because that has probably more opportunities for youth with education in many other fields which are important for agriculture. Anything there?
Questions by and large have been with regard to the high cost of inputs that is there and lack of returns from agriculture. But there's another question which is basically what are the efforts that need to be made to enhance the social capital and network in rural areas so as to effectively have a bottom-up approach to development. So that's one question that's there.
Would either Sarath or Dr. Sangeeta be interested in addressing that question? I don't know how much it has sort of impacted upon their work, but if there is something that they could share with the participants, that would be useful.
Saltanat, could you please repeat the question? I can't hear. I can't hear.
On mute.
Okay.
What are the efforts made to enhance social capital and network in rural areas so as to have an effective bottom-up approach to development?
Well, I think it's a bit difficult. I've visited rural areas often, and I know the farmers are pretty much aware of the kind of schemes that are going on, and they want to tap into those schemes and use them for getting the innovative technologies on their field, and they have a network for that, and there's a lot of awareness. I would say that's what I know.
Okay, right. I think on that, with that, we can perhaps wind up then, and because we are running fairly late, and move on to the last part of the session, which is a vote of thanks and the way forward, which I will request Dr. Livleen, who is with us in Terry, and leads the Environmental Education and Awareness Program. May I request Dr. Livleen to propose a vote of thanks and also summarize the way forward. Livleen.
Thank you, sir. It was indeed a very enlightening session, and to put on record, I would extend a sincere thank you to Dr. J. Hari for setting the context with the opening address, and also your responses to the questions were so well received, and we look forward to a more fruitful and positive engagement with FOLU. Thank you for your presence, sir. Professor Ramesh Chand, member Niti Aayog. Sir, the statistics and data shown by you were really wonderful. And we are just waiting for the transcripts to come in place, and we hope to have a more engaging dialogue with you to see how we can productively engage with the youth across the country on this important theme of connecting the youth and agriculture. I would also like to place on record a sincere thank you to Dr. Satendra Singh Arya from SC, Dr. A.K. Singh, Deputy Director General, ICAR, Agricultural Extension, Dr. Rashmi Agarwal for bringing in the perspective of education, and also the case study presentations brought forward by Dr. Sharath and Dr. Sangeeta Chopra. Believe me, I see and visualize it as a start of a beautiful journey with all of you. And we actually are committed to this cause of agriculture and youth. And with the excellent chairmanship of Vijay Kumar sir, I'm sure we'll open up new gates of working together. A sincere thank you, sir, Vijay Kumar from Terry, and also to Dr. Vibha Dhawan for setting the context of today's program. I would just like to conclude with one closing statement that this session is not a one-off event, but as put forward by Professor Ramesh Chand, it is an idea whose time has come. And I am sure with the excellent direction and steermanship of all the people who are there in today's session, we'll see to a more positive and continuous engagement, which will bank on the youth tempo and enthusiasm. And we will be converting with a lot of outreach activities to bring them forward. Thank you to all of you for this, for sparing your valuable time. And with this, we conclude today's program. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for it.
Thank you, everyone.